The knock came after midnight. 3 sharp raps carried through the frozen wind outside, striking like hammer blows against the thin steel of Elias Vasa's cabin door. Nobody came here at this hour. Nobody should have known his shack even stood this far from the colony's dome lights. He set down the wrench, reaching for the rifle propped against the wall. The thunder howled outside, a blizzard of glassy ice grains rattling across the sheet metal roof. Another knock followed, hesitant, softer, as if whoever stood outside no longer had the strength to demand entry. Elias thumbed the safety, unsealed the lock, and swung the door open. The sight froze him more than the cold ever could. She stood taller than him, wrapped in shredded silks that once might have held the dignity of a queen. Her skin glowed faintly in the lamplight, an opal sheen beneath layers of ash and dirt. 2 children clung to her legs, their wide silver eyes staring through tangled hair. They shivered, but not from the wind. Hunger and fear had hollowed them long before they reached his door. The woman's voice carried low, melodic but trembling. "Human! I will warm your bed. My children need a father. Do not turn us away." Elias gritted his teeth. Valari. Of all the cursed species to stumble across his threshold, it had to be them. He stepped aside only enough to keep the rifle angled between them. "You've got the wrong cabin. I'm not running a shelter." The woman drew herself taller, though her strength was clearly spent. "You are Elias Vas. I know the name. I know you survived the war." "Plenty survived," Elias muttered. He wanted to slam the door shut, but his eyes lingered on the children, thin arms, lips cracked, clothes torn from miles of walking across frozen ground. He'd seen this look before, after raids, when his squad stumbled into villages they were ordered to burn. The eldest child swayed where he stood. Elias cursed under his breath. "Inside. Before you freeze solid." He backed away as they entered. The cabin's warmth struck their cheeks, flushing frostburn into color. The woman glanced at the cot, the workbench, the stacked crates of rations, hardly a home, but safer than the storm. Elias shoved the door closed. "One night. You're gone by morning." The children huddled near the heater, too weary to speak. The woman watched him with eyes both grateful and wary, as if she half expected betrayal. "What's your name?" Elias asked finally. "Salith Varu." She bowed her head slightly, a motion heavy with ritual. "Widow of the House Varu. Once keeper of the Moonlight Halls." The titles meant nothing here. Frontier men didn't care what palaces had burned light years away. Still, the words carried the weight of loss. Elias busied himself with a pot of stew, pretending not to notice the way Salith's hands trembled as she guided her children closer to the heat. "You're running from militia patrols." It wasn't a question. Salith nodded. "The humans with black armbands. They call themselves torchbearers. They hunt any Valari who remain." "Rasps men," Elias muttered. He should have guessed. His old commander had been stirring up trouble for months, feeding resentment, calling for a second war. When the stew simmered, Elias set 3 bowls on the table. The children approached first, cautious but desperate. They devoured each spoonful with wide-eyed silence. Salith ate slower, careful to leave food for them before herself. Elias leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You shouldn't be here. If Rask finds you, I'll hang with you." Her gaze lifted from the bowl, steady now despite exhaustion. "Then why open your door?" The question hit harder than he expected. He didn't answer. Instead, he studied her more closely. Her silks, though torn, had once been embroidered with patterns of moons and rivers, Valari artistry, delicate and shimmering. Blood had stained the hems. Her hair fell in tangled waves around sharp, high-boned features. She looked nothing like the armored warriors he remembered facing on burning fields. She looked human enough to unsettle him. "You said something about warming my bed," Elias said finally, forcing the words out. Salith's expression did not waver. "Among my people, a widow must find shelter for her children. If no Valari man remains, she seeks another protector. An offering of warmth seals the bond. It is survival, not pleasure." The bluntness made Elias shift uneasily. I don't need a bond. I need peace. You hide in solitude, yet peace will not come, she replied softly. You carry ghosts. I see them in your eyes. He snapped, more harshly than intended. I don't need you seeing anything in me. The children flinched at his tone. Elias regretted it instantly, but words once spoken couldn't be reclaimed. He dragged the rifle closer, setting it across his lap, a silent barrier between them. You stay tonight. Tomorrow you move on. That's the deal. Salith inclined her head, as though acknowledging a treaty. We thank you, Elias Voss. One night is more than many have given. The cabin fell into quiet. Only the storm's muffled roar pressed against the steel walls. The children curled together beneath his spare blanket, drifting to sleep faster than he thought possible for little ones in a stranger's home. Selah sat awake beside them, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of the heater. She watched Elias with that same unflinching steadiness, as though memorizing the shape of his silence. He stared back for a long moment, then turned away, focusing on the rifle's worn metal. But her words lingered. You carry ghosts. When at last he killed the lamp and settled onto his cot, the storm outside howled like old memories. He told himself they'd be gone by morning. But deep down, Elias knew the door he'd opened tonight wasn't one he could easily close. Dawn broke pale and brittle across Caldera 6. The tundra stretched in frozen silence, its horizon blurred beneath a sky of steel. Elias Voss pulled on his coat, stepped outside, and let the cold bite into him. He needed parts, fuel, maybe bread from the depot. The woman and her children, no, the Valari, would be gone by the time he returned. That was the promise he made himself. The walk to the trade hub was short but tense. A dozen ramshackle buildings squatted under frost, surrounded by snow tractors and sputtering heat towers. Smoke curled from chimneys, but the air stank of suspicion. Elias felt it before he saw them. Torchbearers. Rask's men stood on the street corners, black armbands stark against worn coats. Their rifles slung casually, yet their eyes hunted. A banner hung across the depot wall, human blood first. Alien lies burn. Elias kept his head down as he crossed to the supply counter. He didn't want attention. He'd been invisible here for months. A mechanic fixing turbines and heaters. Nobody worth a second glance. But Rask noticed everyone. Voss! A familiar voice growled. Elias froze. The commander approached with the same swagger he carried during the war. Rask looked older, beard streaked with gray, but his presence filled the street. 2 militiamen flanked him like loyal dogs. Well, well, Rask said, eyes narrowing. The recluse comes to town. How's life in that little shack of yours? Lonely, I'd wager. Elias forced his tone flat. Just came for supplies. Rask stepped closer, his breath clouding in the cold. Supplies aren't all that's out here. We've had reports of strays, Valari slipping through the ice fields. You seen any? No. Elias lied without hesitation. Rask studied him, eyes sharp, calculating. Good. Because anyone harboring them is no better than the worms themselves. You remember what they did to our men? You were there. The images came unbidden, screams and fire, comrades crushed under alien weapons, orders shouted over static. Elias shoved them aside. I remember. Rask leaned in, voice low. Then you'll stand with us when the time comes. We're taking the fight back before they regroup. This colony will be pure, Voss. Human soil, human hands. You understand me? Elias met his gaze. I understand. Rask grinned, satisfied enough with half-truths, and clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to bruise. Good man. Don't disappoint me. By the time Elias left with his crate of supplies, sweat slicked his back despite the cold. Rask's suspicion lingered in his ears like an echo. One wrong step and the torchbearers would be at his door. When Elias returned, smoke curled from his chimney. His cabin looked almost alive, as if he had left a home instead of an empty workshop. He entered to find Selah standing near the heater, humming in a voice that shimmered like light on water. Her children sat cross-legged on the floor, tracing strange patterns into the frost-streaked planks. Elias set the crate down harder than intended. "I told you one night." Salith turned, unshaken by his tone. "One night became another. The storm did not end. Would you have thrown children into the snow?" His jaw tightened. "It's not safe here. Rast's men are already hunting. If they catch wind, then kill us now," she interrupted, calm as stone. "It would be quicker than the fate they promise." The words landed heavy. Elias exhaled through his teeth, unable to answer. The children looked up, their silver eyes wide. The smaller one whispered, "Is he to be father?" Elias stiffened. "No." But the girl only tilted her head, as if his refusal was irrelevant. She returned to her patterns, humming under her breath. Salith watched him with that steady gaze. "You hide behind anger, but guilt stains you louder than words. You burned our cities," Elias flared. "I followed orders. Don't put their ashes on me." She stepped closer, voice soft but cutting. "Do you believe that absolves you?" His chest ached with the weight of memory, smoke, fire, the cries of children not unlike hers. He gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles blanched. "I don't want absolution. I want to be left alone." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the hiss of the heater. Finally, Salith lowered her eyes. "Then leave us. We will not beg again." Elias turned away, angry at her words, angrier still at himself. He busied his hands with the crate, pulling out spare coils and dried rations, anything to avoid the sight of her children tracing symbols in the frost like prayers written to vanish. Later, he found Salith kneeling by a broken device, something sleek and organic, half machine, half grown. Its surface pulsed faintly as though it still lived. "Valari craft," Elias muttered, crouching beside it. "It belonged to my mate," Salith said. "It no longer sings." Elias ran his hands over the strange curves, searching for logic in its alien design. Circuits woven into fibers, energy cells fused with crystal. Nothing he'd been trained to fix, yet the challenge stirred him. He pulled tools from the bench and began prying panels open. "You cannot mend what you do not understand," she said. "Watch me." Minutes stretched into an hour as Elias coaxed connections back to life. Sparks lit, then faded. He improvised, welding scraps of human wiring into alien grooves. At last the device hummed, faint but steady. Salith's eyes widened, her composure cracking for the first time. "How did you?" "Stubbornness," Elias said simply. "Humans don't like being told we can't fix something." Her lips parted, not quite a smile, but something close. She touched the glowing surface reverently, as though a piece of her mate had stirred again. "You make what is broken sing. Perhaps that is your gift." Elias looked away, uncomfortable with her gratitude. Yet a strange warmth spread in his chest, unfamiliar and unwelcome. That night, as he checked the perimeter, he saw torchlight flicker in the distance. Shapes moved against the snow, dark figures sweeping the tundra with rifles in hand. Rast scouts? Elias shut the door fast and bolted it. Inside, Salith read the tension in his face before he spoke. "They're close," he said. Her hands tightened on her children's shoulders. "If they come, you must choose. Us or your people." Elias looked at the rifle leaning by the door. His choice should have been clear. Survival meant silence, obedience, no risks. Yet when he glanced at the children curled against their mother, he realized the decision was already gnawing through him. The storm outside deepened, and for the first time since the war, Elias Voss wondered if solitude had been nothing but another kind of grave. The knock did not come this time. The torchbearers arrived with boots crunching snow, their shadows stretched by torchlight across the tundra. Elias had seen them from the ridge before dusk, moving with predatory patience. Now they circled the cabin like wolves. Inside, the air thickened. Salith gathered her children behind her, eyes fixed on the door. The little ones clung to her, silent but trembling. Elias checked the rifle, the click of the chamber echoing like a clock winding down to zero. "They'll ask?" Elias muttered. And if I lie, they'll come in anyway. Then truth is safer? Salitha's voice was calm, but her fingers tightened on her children's shoulders. No, he said. Truth will get us killed. A fist pounded the door. Vas! Rask's voice boomed through the steel. Open up! Elias breathed slow, forcing stillness into his body. He opened the door just enough to face his former commander. Rask stood with half a dozen men, rifles ready, torchlight painting his face in red and gold. Evening, Commander, Elias said flatly. Rask's eyes flicked past him, into the gloom of the cabin. We tracked prints in the snow. 3 sets. Smaller than yours. Elias's grip tightened on the door. Strays pass through here all the time. I don't ask questions. Rask leaned forward, close enough that Elias smelled smoke on his breath. You think I can't smell them? The stink of Valari clings like rot. Behind Elias, a floorboard creaked. One of the children. Rask's smile spread slow and cruel. Move aside. No, Elias said. The word dropped like iron. Rask blinked then laughed. You've gone soft, Vas. What did they promise you? Alien flesh? Silver-eyed brats calling you father? His laughter turned sharp. You'd betray your own kind for them? Elias lifted the rifle, steady as stone. They're mine to protect now. The laughter stopped. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Rask spat into the snow. Traitor! He jerked his hand down. Take him! The first man surged forward. Elias fired once, clean, efficient. The soldier fell into the snow, torch tumbling. Chaos broke. Gunfire rattled the night. Elias ducked back inside, slamming the door. Bullets punched through the steel, sparks bursting across the wall. The children screamed. Salith pulled them down, shielding them with her body. Elias dropped to a crouch, returning fire through the window's slit. One militiaman spun down. Another torch hit the ground, hissing in the snow. But there were too many. 6 rifles against 1. Ammunition was thin. His cabin would not hold. Salith crawled to his side, holding the repaired Valari device. Its crystal veins pulsed faintly. Will it answer you? She asked. Elias hesitated. The thing was alien, half alive. But when bullets slammed the wall again, decision vanished. He pressed the coil he'd rigged, twisting wires he'd soldered from scrap. The device roared awake, light spilling like molten glass. Outside, the torchbearers faltered. A wave of sonic force rippled through the snow, knocking men off their feet. Torches guttered out. Rask bellowed orders, but his men scrambled in panic, blinded by the alien glow. Elias fired again, cutting down another attacker. His heart hammered, but the rifle was steady, his breath controlled. Old instincts surged back, honed in fire and blood, but this time they served something different. Not orders. Not conquest. Family. The door burst inward. Rask himself charged through, axe in hand, face twisted with fury. Elias swung the rifle up, but Rask knocked it aside with brute force. The 2 men crashed against the table, splintering wood. You're nothing without me, Rask roared, driving the axe down. Elias caught his wrist, muscles screaming as steel hovered inches from his throat. Wrong, Elias growled. He shoved, twisting the weapon free, and slammed Rask into the wall. They grappled, trading blows, old soldiers locked in a brutal rhythm. Rask fought with savage strength, every strike a hammer. Elias fought with endurance, years of survival carved into muscle memory. Blood slicked his face, his ribs burned, but he refused to fall. A small cry broke through the struggle. The children, pressed into the corner. Rask's eyes darted toward them. He grinned through blood. I'll kill them first. That single threat cut deeper than any blade. Elias surged, slamming Rask to the ground. His hands locked around his commander's throat. For a moment he saw only darkness, the endless orders, the ruins of cities. He could end it. End him. Elias. Salitha's voice reached through the haze. Do not kill for vengeance. Kill for life. The words steadied him. His grip tightened once, sharp and final. Rask went limp. Elias staggered back, chest heaving. Outside, the remaining torchbearers fled into the night, broken by the sonic blast, leaderless and afraid. Silence returned, broken only by the crackle of the heater. Elias wiped blood from his face. His cabin was wrecked, tables shattered, walls pierced, floor smeared with ash and snow. But Salith and her children were alive. He looked at them. The girl pressed against her mother's side. The boy stared at him with wide, unblinking eyes. Neither moved. Elias knelt, laying the rifle aside. His voice came rough, almost breaking. You're safe now. As long as I'm breathing, no one touches you. The boy stepped forward, small hand reaching out, touching Elias's sleeve as if testing if he was real. The girl followed, curling against his shoulder. Their weight was light, but it anchored him heavier than war ever had. Salith rose slowly, exhaustion lining her face. She crossed the room, kneeling beside them. Her hand rested over Elias's, cool and sure. You have chosen, she said softly. You are our hearth now. Elias met her gaze. No denial came. No words at all. Only the quiet certainty that whatever future lay ahead, running, hiding, fighting, he would face it with them. The storm outside raged on, but for the first time in years, Elias Voss felt something stronger than survival. He felt belonging.